Hello and good morning, everybody, or good afternoon from wherever you're watching. Good morning if you're watching from UK. I'm here in Bali and it's my afternoon, just reached 3 p.m. Yeah, and I'm excited to be here with you because today we are going to talk about how to build sustainable online communities. And that's a pretty broad topic. So we have had already two really exciting webinars, one last week and the week before, all about how to create micro degrees that you can monetize, that you can make work for you. And there are lots of different elements that you can or cannot consider in making your micro degree more successful or not. So I have just posted in the Entrepreneur Mentor Circle, and I'll have a look every now and again who is actually joining me and who wants to connect with me during this webinar. This is where I will answer all your questions and get your feedback. So yeah, it's me only today. Michelle is not available, unfortunately. But the good news is that I have lots of really potent information collected from different people of the Genius U team. So I've interviewed Suraj and Michelle and yeah, got some really good information together about our marketing strategies and how Genius U is creating sustainable online communities. So now, first of all, I would like to talk a little bit about what it actually means. Like, what do I actually mean with a sustainable online community? A sustainable online community is something that is self-sustaining. And what I mean by that is, even if there are changes, even if there maybe some members of the community kind of drop in and out, the community is maintained and continuously grows and thrives. And whatever changes occur, like there's a continuous growth in the community happening. Kind of similar to the Genius Entrepreneur Mastermind, for example. So there's continuous exchange, but actually the Facebook group, if you are part of the GEM Facebook group, it's a highly active group where there's a lot of exchange happening, and no matter whether the people are changing, there's always some level of exchange happening. The EMC group hasn't grown that much, but it definitely was used for one of the biggest launches that Genius U did ever, which happened last year in June. And I was part of that launch. That's kind of how I came on board on Genius U, writing the 12 courses with Roger and kind of walking you through the EMC steps. So we used kind of like that launch. We created a big funnel. There were 3 videos, if you remember, that were launched, and they kind of like created an excitement, a funnel, and then kind of let people into the Facebook group. And then there was even more exciting happening. If you remember that time, like Roger was posting, "Where are you from?" And there were like 200 people posting, all sorts of different areas where they lived and what they wanted to do and what they wanted to get out of this. And everybody was going crazy. Like for a couple of months, there was like so much momentum happening. And this is kind of the art that I want you to take through on this course. So we already have a couple of people joining. I didn't see any posts in the Facebook group. Do you want to just link like the Facebook tag that I just put you on and tell me where you're from and what you want to get out of this call? If you have any questions, then do already mark them to me. But let's just get started with my presentation. I just need to find the share button here. Okay, so the art of building a sustainable community online. So basically, it all starts, or the way Genius U is doing that with kind of the base, or the way we do that is based on the book of Nir Eyal called Hooked. And the whole kind of Genius U idea is based on this book as well, which is has influenced many really important companies such as Uber, Airbnb, Facebook. That's kind of like YouTube. All the methodologies that those companies use is kind of in this book, Hooked. Yeah, so the hook canvas, the base of this book is kind of based on the hook canvas, which looks like a hook right here, and it all starts with wanting to make your customers do something, right? So they kind of need to change a habit in order for joining a community or buying a product or like being part of something. And that's kind of what the hook canvas explains, and how to actually do that. How do you get people motivated from like where they are to like wanting change that you offer, or wanting them to learn the skill or the product that you have to offer through the Microdegree. And then like what does actually take them into taking an action, and then they're rewarded and actually invest in your business, right? So I want to explore that a little bit further. I've already prepared a video that I'm showing to you in a second. But let's take a closer look on the triggers. So first of all, if I look at that here, there are two different kinds of triggers. One can be internal and one can be external. And the internal one is kind of more related to me. It's about on Facebook, for example, a trigger would be, do people like my posts? Or do people like the content about the Microdegree that I'm sharing, right? So if you advertise your Microdegree, for example, on Facebook and you write about that, so it's like an internal trigger. Is it something where, are kind of people interested in that? Versus the external trigger is more like, in terms of Facebook, for example, is more like, I want to connect to friends, and I want to do something like that. So that's kind of like leading me into taking an action. As an external trigger could be that they're kind of pressured from something in the society or in their own business, that they have to learn a certain skill that you kind of bring across with your Microdegree, right? Okay, and then they go into taking action. And the action usually is giving you your time and kind of paying attention, clicking the like button of something, maybe even going on to the Genius U platform to watch or look at your Microdegree. And then there's a reward, right? The reward in this case would be that they actually learn the skill, or that they're handheld through the process or whatever it is. And then there's an investment that they're willing to do at the end of your Microdegree. For example, if you choose to do a free one, and if your call to action at the end says, go and make an investment with me, like join my group, right? So let's take a closer look of the summary of this book. Oh, sorry, not this one. And what they say here. I hope you can all hear.
Hooked. How to Build Habit-Forming Products by Nir Eyal. An entrepreneur on a mission to discover what makes certain startups an integral part of pop culture. Years of studying successful startups led to insights about influencing consumer behavior. And then, these insights were codified in the Hook model, a cycle of events engineered to keep users coming back. The Hook cycle consists of 4 stages: trigger, action, variable reward, and investment. 1. Trigger. In order to engage a consumer for the first time, you need a trigger, something to prompt the consumer to take action. This can take the form of paid advertising, PR, and email invites. This type of trigger is an external one, as opposed to an internal trigger that comes from the consumers themselves. An example of an internal trigger is feeling bored. In response, you instinctively fire up Facebook and connect with friends. The idea is to employ external triggers that eventually form habits, so that future consumer engagement is prompted by internal triggers, and the consumer doesn't even have to think about it. 2. Action. The goal of the trigger is to promise a reward and demonstrate how to get it. Click the link, the action. Check out friends having fun. Get the reward. The action has to be as streamlined, delightful, and simple as possible. The most important thing for a startup is to eliminate as many steps as possible from its process. Remember, doing something out of habit means doing it without even thinking. So the action here needs to be easier than thinking in order to form a habit. 3. Variable reward. After taking action, now the consumer needs to receive a reward. This can be a relief from boredom with a funny photo, something entertaining, or something useful. But how is this different than the well-known feedback loop? User takes action, receives reward, and the cycle repeats. Been there, done that. The operative word here is variable. Rewards need to be variable in order to hook a consumer into a cycle and form a habit. Otherwise, the consumer starts anticipating the reward and eventually loses interest and doesn't come back. Four, investment. Finally, following the reward, it's time to ask for a small investment in the form of a personal contribution. Make your consumers work a little and store value in your product. This will make them stickier consumers. It's actually been shown that we value our own work much more than it's actually worth. So a consumer's investment in a product increases its value disproportionately. This is sometimes called the IKEA effect. Besides saving a ton of money by having us do all the assembly, IKEA also benefits because we like the furniture much more than it deserves, simply because we've poured our very own sweat and tears. Conclusion. Every investor wants to invest in the next painkiller idea, one that solves a big pain point. Yet some of the most successful startups are hardly painkillers. Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram. These companies are masters of the hook model. A compelling trigger prompts a super simple action that delights us with a variable reward, and then we're all too happy to make our own small contribution or investment, which itself creates future triggers. For example, when you swipe right on Tinder and there's a match, the other party receives a notification that pulls them back onto the platform. The hook model is all too powerful. The question is, how will you harness its power?
Right. So I'm curious to hear from you guys how you are harnessing this power and what do you think. There's still not many people posting yet. So do go ahead and post in the Facebook group if you want to. If you're watching the recording, there's also no harm in just posting below and kind of letting me know what you think, how you can use the hook model and what you have learned from that. So I know that was a lot of information there already. And I want to kind of like dive a little bit deeper into the different areas that were just discussed in terms of variable rewards and how you can actually make them variable and what these rewards could look like in terms of your Microdegree, right? As usual, you know, like this is just a very simple model in like how to get people coming back to you and not forgetting you and like really wanting to take that course and maybe another Microdegree if you throw one on top of that, right? So let's keep in mind that there are only four things that you actually really need them to do is kind of like what is or to think of so you get them to do something. So think of the trigger. What kind of trigger might kind of like work for them so they are inspired to take an action. How do you create variable rewards, and how do you get them to invest in your part? So the variable reward has to do with what you're sharing on social media, right? So the trigger would be something more that speaks to their desire and their need and their pain that you're solving. Whereas the variable reward speaks a lot more about, or that is more about different social media posts or engagement, and kind of like showing them what will be different in their lives once they have completed the microdegree. And that brings me to the first secret of anything that you do in your company regarding this microdegree, and any sort of marketing that you do around the microdegree. Consistency is key. I think consistency is the #1 secret of everything that is happening in your company. And what do I mean with consistency? So consistency, what I mean with that is consistency in content. It's brand consistency in terms of how do you speak to people, and like how are you being understood and heard, and how often do you share, and is the message in the content similar? I think it's really important to understand that the content isn't about you, but it is about the community that you're in. So you are not sharing something only coming from you, but you are sharing something that is really important and matters to the community. And I see that many entrepreneurs kind of like have that habit of like sharing just about their brand and about like why they're so awesome, but actually the real value is being created because you capture what the community actually really like needs, and you also help others thrive. But I come to that in a moment. So the content needs to be educational. It needs to inspire or entertain in any sort of way. In my talk, I kind of in South Africa, I shared with people that good content is all about making other people fall in love with you. And why do I say that? Because the love hormone, consists out of dopamine, endorphin, and oxytocin, which are exactly the 3 hormones that you need to tell an inspiring story that can go viral. I'll come to that in a minute in more detail. So you have to find a way to stick out of the crowd and be different. That is kind of the thing that you have to find with consistency, and then create a rhythm and just kind of like stick to that, and be consistent and be out there. In case you are now thinking of like, how can I do all this? I think the worst thing that you can do is actually not starting. So if you want to bring out your message and what your microdegree is all about, you just try one thing first, and keep a rhythm going, and kind of keep posting. And even if you switch in kind of like the style or the how in how you deliver this content, that's okay. It's even positive, and I'll explain you again in a second why. As long as you go out and do it, I think that's the only thing other than not being consistent that's going to keep you from being successful. The second thing is that you want posts and the microdegree in itself be designed to share, right? If you look at the microdegrees on Genius U, a lot of people actually go out there and share the wealth dynamics test and the microdegrees, or health dynamics, or B1G1. Like we have already shown you all the microdegrees out there, and they are definitely designed in a way that they excite people and are shareable. Excuse me. I'm having a bit of an allergy today all day. So, so in order to design something that is shareable and that other people want to share, you can use the 4 U's and the 4 P rule. I put that here. So the 4 U's formula is means that the content needs to be useful, it needs to be ultra specific, it needs to be urgent, and it needs to be unique. Okay, so I just want to go back to the EMC example that I was talking about earlier, and like this very big launch that Genius U did last year. where we had a lot of content created, right? And it was like shared by so many people. It made over $500,000. So it was a very popular thing that happened. And when I look at the content, there was, first of all, there was a whole video series kind of planned out, and that was like shared in a certain time frame within the promotion. So that was all planned, and it was all consistent, and it kind of like kept on being repeated, showing up on different channels. And then it was also designed in a way that it was a very useful information, right? So Roger showed, he gave insights into finding your why and the wealth dynamics concept, and how he's using all of that to actually then go out in the community and make a change. And then he interviewed people like Kyron, people like myself, to kind of show the different stages in like where he mentored people and what actually is possible if you start following this formula, right? So there was a lot of useful content and very insightful information that kind of kept people super engaged. They wanted to come back and watch the second video and the third video, and they really wanted to come in and be part of the Facebook group and be part of this entrepreneur movement that he created or co-created and made everybody aware of. So suddenly there was something really, really exciting. And that's also something auto specific. So it was really about the entrepreneur movement, and it was very clear that his message is entrepreneurs are going to change the world, and that's what Genius U is all about. So it's very clear, and like we want entrepreneurs to thrive and grow in order to change the world. So it's very clear, and like what the offer is, and like so you become a mentor yourself to mentor other businesses to change the world, right? So that was very, very specific. And it was urgent because there was only a limited time, and it was a first time ever launch of the EMC itself. And then Roger was building that on a weekly basis, and so there was a lot of urgency created, and there was uniqueness. Nobody else in the whole world did a certification scheme for mentorship, so that was super unique. So he definitely ticked all the boxes here. And then also the whole idea with picture, promise, proof, and push. What does that mean? So when you share, attach a video or a picture, or like make clear that that kind of like is in consistency with your Microdegree and where you want to take it. The promise is very, very clear. So again, here in the EMC, the promise was to become a mentor on Genius U and to learn how to do that step by step, and to become the first ever certified mentor in the world. And the proof, he did that with showing other like user stories, like so how his mentorship impacted other entrepreneurs, and how other mentors can have the same impact if he kind of shares his learnings about mentorship. And then there was a push in terms of the urgency, right? So it was like we push everyone to be part of the Facebook group on Genius U, and then they were kind of, everybody was sold into the funnel, the rest of the funnel. So give you another idea of how other entrepreneurs have tried this in terms of posts. It's more here about understanding kind of like the effectiveness of emotions that you create with the 4 U's and the 4 P's. So here we have this image of like a man tries to hug a wild lion. You won't believe what happened next, right? So are you curious? Would you click on this after you've like seen this picture and this link, right? So it creates a lot of curiosity, and that's why it has like 1,620 comments and many shares that happened there. And here it's another advertisement, and change your brain, research proof you can do it. It's perfectly legal. So it kind of plays with that storytelling aspect that I was telling you about earlier. It costs you nothing. It's very, like, it definitely fulfills all the boxes when I look at this here. It's useful. It's very specific. It's urgent, unique. There's a nice picture. It's clear what the promise is, and there's a proof. And there's a push as well by accepting free charter issue we've reserved in your name, right? So It's a very clear message in how these people have actually advertised what they wanted to do. There are a couple of other social media tricks that I wanted to share with you. Social media is not really rocket science. It's just that it's perceived that way, or that it kind of like maybe feels more complicated than it actually is. But it actually is the key element of social media is being present. So once you share your content, you may as well also share the content of others. So who are potential partners, or even your competitors, or kind of people who do similar things, or like are in your industry, in your field of interest, and you just add value, right? And I think don't be scared that other people buy other people's products and kind of like dissolve that, but rather work on your message and make sure that you're sticking out of the crowd enough that they really get why you're different, right? I think it's even something like a benefit or a bonus if people see, you know, this is this person is like summarizing all the information that is actually out there, and she's doing that for me, or he's doing that for me, so I don't have to go and do it and kind of like make my own mind up in who do I feel really drawn to and why do I do that, right? So that all comes from your personal message. The next step is that you reply to comments and get the conversation going. So you go in. That's actually the main secret of social media, is that it's all happening in the detail. So the more present you are, the more you can tap into conversations and keep conversations going, the more successful you will be on social media. You can't fake it or outsource it. It's got to be you who is doing that. Yeah, so again, in the EMC launch, what we did was the whole promotion of the Microdegree was kind of, you know, it was like a one-time event that only happened now. And then we kind of all led people to be in this group and take the course together. So I think that's a really effective tool in like building masterminds or Facebook groups around your Microdegree, to like get the excitement of this is now happening and we're all going through this Microdegree together, and I'll handhold you, and I, you know, show up on regular webinars, for example, or mastermind calls once a week, and like interview other people and give you all the resources you need to actually really walk through this course. And there's a reward like happening at the end, for example, if you really do that, right? So it's really about creating this community sense through conversation and through this feeling of we're in this together. And which brings me to a really important point in anything regarding marketing or your Microdegree is partnerships. You need to enable others to share your content, right? So it's, I think, really, really powerful if your content is so inspiring and such an interesting message that other people really want to actually go out and share that with other friends. I mean, that's the ultimate. And the more you can experiment with that, the better. Again, the worst thing that you can do is not even starting. So you just go and try. Yeah, so then the next one is an interview, are interviews with the key people in your community. And that kind of drops back to something I mentioned at the hook method initially. So the variable of rewards, right? You can't, at the moment, you got to start with one Microdegree only. I mean, variable rewards would be to even have multiple Microdegrees. But at the moment, the variable reward for you is more on different kind of content that you create. So one could be social media posts on Facebook about something that the community finds inspirational. Sorry, guys, I don't know what's happening. I'm totally with you and actually very energetic and present. The interview, yeah, so you kind of like go out and interview key people in your community about the Microdegree, about the content, about the skill that you want to share, about the event that the Microdegree is about the onboarding process, whatever you decide what the reason or the context for your Microdegree is. This is where you can invite other people in and like interview them through a webinar, kind of just like Michelle usually does that with me. And Google Hangout is totally for free. So we're not even paying for this right now. So you can totally go out and do that wherever you are, whatever stage you are in your business. Promote others and tell them about what you have shared. So that's another trick, that you actually go out and write something about a person in your community that has that skill maybe, or that has changed through the skill that you offered, or something along those lines. We do offer success stories. So that's kind of like a project that Genius U started, if you haven't noticed already, that we are regularly posting success stories of our own customers on Genius U, and we promote them, right? And then we go and share with them, this is what we've done, but we don't ask them to share it or anything like that. We just, we are just really grateful for them being part of our community, and for them adding so much value, and for them really thriving in their own business. And like the better our mentoring works, the happier we are in kind of like seeing other people shine and thrive. And so that's what we do. And then there is also the option to do some guest posting. So I would recommend you to kind of go in right now and look at 5 key people in your community that you could interview, 5 people that you could promote, and then also 5 blog channels that you want to guest blog in, for example. And then you just approach them. Just go out in there and like say, this is like what I want to do. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm up to. Kind of write a blog post for you. And then for PR purposes, I think the first step for good PR is to have a good autobiography, to have a personal identity and a personal brand that will help you being more understood and being very clear in like where you want to go. And then you can also contact more and more media channels through your autobiography. You can also use events. So similar, like I'm doing it right now here. I'm launching webinars. We had this amazing launch of the scholarship for the Microdegree Builder Workshop here in June in Bali. And in the course of that promotion, I started running webinars. There will be more, but that's kind of like one of the tools I used. You can also make that a lot bigger, right? So for the EMC, we had a couple of Facebook Lives, and there were like over 150 people, definitely at least joining. I know other coaches who have up to 400 or 500 people on webinars. So it's really like a very potent way to make yourself being seen and heard and add value about what your Microdegree is about, right? So you can already share some kind of information about your content in the webinars, but don't give away so much that people know exactly how to do it on their own, but so that they get curious, kind of like what I'm doing here. Other web events, so you can also create an online summit, for example, or mastermind groups, weekly, monthly, whatever you think, or webinar interviews. So yeah, like I just said earlier, kind of use Google Hangout and just call somebody up and do a webinar interview and put it live. And you can do that in a consistent way and a weekly rhythm. And then you have like a fellowship of people joining you on board and kind of being there with you as well. Offline events such as talks in co-working spaces, or create your own events, right? So that's another way of sharing your Microdegree and your skill. Whereas I'd be kind of like careful that you don't give away too much information during these events. So it's really about what is the parts that you want them to get about you, that add value to them and their lives, but in a way that they still want to go and take the course or sell up or upsold into another product. Oh my God, it's happening again. Okay, so coming to the last point, which is another really, really key point in everything that you do in marketing. I think it was Alan Rees from the Lean Startup who invented the term unfair advantage. And And that's kind of part of the business model canvas. In case you're not familiar with that, go and check out business model canvas. The unfair advantage is something usually that is more related to something that you and you only have. So what is your background, what is your story, and kind of like what makes you so unique. But you can also apply that to a community, right? So what is the unfair advantage of your community? Why do I want to be part of your amazing community that is so unique that like I need to go and do this thing right now? First, before I kind of drop into how you find the unfair advantage, and I do some more work on that myself, but yeah, I just wanted to share another video that I love personally because it's so clear in like how our world works nowadays, and like how you can use your own branding message and your identity to like really crystallize why you are different. And it's something that Roger talks a lot about. It's called the hero's journey. It actually was invented by, I forgot now, but by really a famous author a long time ago already, who like started creating the hero's journey. And that only means basically that there is always a hero involved in every story that we hear or do. In this case, the hero is your customer, and the hero undergoes a challenge, right? So it's kind of the problem that you're solving with the Microdegree. So something that keeps him awake at night, something that he needs to battle against or fight against. And then there is the way of like how you create the heroic solution for this hero. So let's kind of just listen in, and then I can share some more about this.
We humans have always been obsessed with communicating. It's how we turn ideas into the glue that binds us together, into tribes and societies. In oral traditions, an idea spreads from person to person. Everyone briefly owns it, modifies it, and can choose to pass it through social networks or let it die. It's survival of the fittest, and only the most compelling ideas thrive. But the last 100 years of the broadcast era changed all that. Here, audiences became consumers of ideas, not participants in spreading them. Brands and causes with access to broadcast could guarantee attention. It became survival of the richest. Now that the broadcast era is ending, what will come next? With audiences again in charge of what ideas they seek, skip, and pass along, we are entering a time that looks like a digitally empowered version of the oral tradition. The digitoral era. Here, it's survival of the fittest again. And what kind of ideas survive in any oral tradition? Stories. It's time we all became storytellers again. But how? It starts by thinking of your brand itself as a story. Every communication you create is another chapter in an unfolding epic starring you and your audience. On the surface of any story, you'll find characters, settings, conflict. None of these things are placed there by chance. Every visible element of a well-told story is there to illustrate a core truth about the world, a moral of the story. Morals are themselves expressions of values that the storyteller wants to share. Different values create vastly different morals and story surfaces. Joseph Campbell, who studied stories across cultures and millennia, discovered the most universally successful stories, or myths, call audiences to higher human values, like community, justice, truth, and self-expression. Campbell also uncovered the hero's journey, a formula for iconic storytelling that has always worked. We still see it everywhere, and it provides huge insights for a story-based brand. An unlikely hero, a powerless outsider, muddles through a broken world. She wants to live out her higher values, but feels powerless to do so. Then she meets a mentor who tells her so much more is possible. He gives her a magic gift and calls her to a dangerous adventure of self-discovery. On this adventure, she confronts the evil source of the world's brokenness and seizes a treasure with which she comes back to heal society. Audiences thrill to hear this story again and again. Brands can use this formula to become storytelling masters too. How? Start with the hero. This hero doesn't start out as the insider, the one with the power. She is an outsider to your brand. So she's not you. The hero of your story is your audience. So if you're not the hero, who are you? The mentor. You are the character that reveals more is possible. You work to connect audiences to their deeper values. You teach a core truth, a moral of the story that provides hope to heal a broken world. Stop talking about how great you are and start telling stories about how great your audience can be. And give them a magic gift, something that makes the adventure you are offering seem likely to succeed. A great brand gift has taken good story brands and made them cultural icons. Any brand can become a story brand by finding its relevance in its values, its consistency by building every communication around its moral. It finds resonance in its unique voice as mentor rather than hero, and its differentiator in its gift. But that's the easy part. In the transparent world of the digital era, mythic success will take something more, a commitment to live the higher values you espouse. Those that don't will lose credibility and their stories with it. Brands brave enough to live their values will reach iconic status and light up the digital landscape. They will tell the stories and create the myths that will win the story wars.
Yay, that was that. So one of my favorite YouTube videos. I hope you got a lot out of that. So it's kind of like really the understanding of how you are the mentor in all of this and how you are called to help your mentees through the Microdegree, and how that is like a calling, right? It's not like something where you're trying to help them or do something. It's like it's a mission. And I think that needs to come out really clearly in whatever you do, whether it's anything you post on social media or any kind of content you create or any message that you want to share with your community, and how you show up in this world in itself. So that's kind of the work that I do now as a consultant besides Genius U. I look at personal identity and brand identity and the story that you're telling with either. So yeah, super excited about that. And some of the questions that I always ask my clients are, there are 3 stories basically that tell the public narrative, or that kind of create the public narrative. And that's also where you find your why in all of those stories. So the story of self, you can see here. The story of us is the 3rd one, and the story of now. Now, what does that mean? I've put some questions here, but they're not necessarily important. It's kind of more to give you an idea of like how answering or writing about the story of self could look like. So the way I've done it is by connecting the dots of my life and investigated what brought me actually here. What were the cornerstones, like the key edges, the paragraphs that I would write if I'd read the book, like what was significant in my life. And also, for example, if you are a coach, then look at how the skill of coaching or a mentor, like look at where the mentorship in all of this has occurred since childhood. Probably you will find heaps of cues in how you have showed up as a leader and like guided other people through whatever you do. So look at other strengths of yours that you are using today and that have occurred before. So that's, I think, a really good element to play with, having more insights in your personal identity and how you are connected with why you're here. The story of us, what does that mean? The story of us. So us is you and your customers together as one, right? So it's like you and I right here, we're friends. We are like one community. It's us. So who are we? In this case, we are mentors who want to support other entrepreneurs and businesses and empower them to leverage their own business and scale, to get a skill, to just get clearer on something that hasn't been clarified in this world yet. So we are definitely interested in growth, in like business growth, personal growth. We believe in the power of entrepreneurship and definitely in social entrepreneurship. So what do we value the most, right? So I've kind of already shared lots of these values, and like, yeah, we want to make the world a better place, and like, how do we actually get there? But we also want to have fun along the way. What do we need the most, right? So what is kind of like our need in terms of, well, we need a platform where we can all meet and hang out and share our knowledge and and kind of create our sales and target that, right? So that's a big one. And then what are we secretly looking for? So if that is anything, it's kind of, yeah, there's a longing maybe to have like full funnels made for us, or to be more handheld in the process of creating a Microdegree, for example, right? The story of now is the story of our time. So what is going on in our time right now that makes our community so special? I put here you're there, but actually it should be our. But anyway, I read it like it is. So is your community collectively facing a challenge that is currently going on? Is your community collectively experiencing something different? And in our case, that would be, well, we are experiencing tough times. Like there is a lot of insecurity coming up. A lot more people are going to lose their jobs in the next couple of years. A lot more people are going to be born in the next couple of years. So there's increasing pressure on our resources. There's increasing pressure on like equality and actually like our consciousness and wanting, you know, everybody to be equal and have equal rights. And there are lots of challenges, and yet our own challenge is like, there's so many people actually becoming entrepreneurs, and I don't know how to stick out of that anymore, right? So one would be the story of now is, yes, entrepreneurs are kind of like what we want to engage with or in. That's our tribe, because we think entrepreneurship is a solution to some of the challenges that I was mentioning earlier. And the other one is like there's so many people out there who is actually gonna help me being unique and different, right? So that would be kind of the story of now. So you put that together for your business in a very unique way, and you will find your unfair advantage there. That is the base of your content creation. So I'm already coming to an end of my presentation. Oh, I didn't expect that happening. Sorry about that. So great. So I just invite you once again to share any questions if there are any. And otherwise, where is it gone? Somewhere further down. Okay. Yeah. So if anybody has a question, just put them in here. If not, I think I have come to the end of my presentation. It has been super exciting for me to be on board of the 3 past webinars. And I'm even more excited that we have a winner of our scholarship announced. So it's Sarah Taylor, who is going to come on board for free to Bali with her glitter bikini or something she mentioned. So that's super awesome. And we are just in the process of reaching out to the people who have won the second prize. If that is you, then I congratulate you. You should have already received an email, and we'll be in touch with you shortly. So that's it from my side. I hope that was useful. I'll stop sharing because, nobody is here. So thank you for joining me, and have a lovely rest of the day. Bye.